Hi, and welcome to the Access Direct Opening Bell, your essential pre-market podcast. In just minutes, get key global updates, overnight trends, and market-moving factors that set the tone for the day. Whether you're a seasoned trader or just someone tracking the markets, this is your go-to briefing to stay ahead at all times. So let's dive straight in. Happy Friday, and we will start with US equities, which ended down yesterday, with the S&P 500 finishing 0.5% and the Nasdaq 100 closing 0.8% lower. Elsewhere, the public spat between Elon Musk and President Trump over the latter's tax bill hit Tesla hard, with the stock dropping over 14%. Meanwhile, President Xi Jinping and Trump agreed to more trade talks after the latter said that they cleared certain pending disputes and he accepted China's invitation to visit. In markets, the VIX rose nearly 5%. The dollar index fell for the third day in four, while the US 10-year Treasury yield recovered from a near one-month low. Gold dropped on Trump-Xi talks as the demand for safe havens reduced somewhat. Silver jumped to the highest in 13 years, while oil was steady near $63 a barrel as trade tensions thinned out. At home, the rupee held above 86 yesterday and finally settled at 85.80. Today's RBI policy decision is likely to decide the near-term fate of the currency. Expectations are that the central bank will cut rates by 25 basis points to 5.75%. The cut, if it comes, will be the second for this financial year. Coming to stocks, the Nifty rose 130 points to close out the day at 24,751, sending the India VIX down 4.2% for its third straight daily loss. The NSE 500 small cap and mid cap indices gained and did better than the Nifty. Nearly 60% of the NSE 500 members gained. 8 of the 12 NSE sectors rose, with realty and pharma rising 1.8% and 1.3% respectively. PSU banks fell the most, losing 0.6%. The best and worst performers on the Nifty were Eternal, which rose 4.4% for its second day of similar gains, and IndusInd Bank, which fell 1.4%. Technically speaking, yesterday's higher close produced a buyer rejection candle at the day's highs, generating a long upper shadow. That is not very encouraging for bulls, and it makes 24,900 a key resistance to overcome going forward. That, of course, within the larger 24,462 to 25,116 sideways churn that is currently being witnessed. Immediate support for the day sits at 24,672, followed by 24,573. Meanwhile, provisional data show that foreigners withdrew 208 crores yesterday. The month-to-date outflow now stands at 4,575 crores. On to derivatives, and the Nifty's put-call ratio rose to 0.98 from 0.73, while the Bank Nifty's rose to 0.83 from 0.81 previously. Liquidation in Nifty calls was far higher than what was seen in puts, and at-the-money implied volatility fell 26 basis points at the close, which meant that on a net basis, market participants turned cautious. Options concentration for the 12th June expiry shows a trackable range of 24,700 to 25,000 for the day, with notable additions seen at the 24,800 strike for calls and at the 24,700 strike for puts. Note that we have ignored distance strikes that are far out of the money. Demand for 1% out of the money calls fell more than that for similar distance puts, which means volatility traders remained negative. Speaking net index options activity, foreigners and proprietary traders flipped to bearish, while retail investors turned bullish. Elsewhere, foreigners' net short positioning in index futures increased from 103,000 contracts to 107,000 contracts. Looking forward to today's session, the GIFT Nifty was down 5 points at 7 a.m. Asian markets were mostly green with no notable moves seen. US index futures were mixed. Coming to stocks, Ashok Leyland was at horizontal support, while Dixon Technologies and Imami were at horizontal resistance. Adani Power, Alchem and BPCL were at trendline support, while Ajanta Pharma and Bank of Baroda were at trendline resistance. Talking Brent, 79%, 81% and 54% of stocks in the NSE 500 were above their 50, 100 and 200-day moving averages. Change in non-farm payrolls and data on the unemployment rate will be released from the US later today. That wraps up the day's podcast. Please note that this podcast serves solely for informational purposes and should not be considered financial advice of any kind. For a comprehensive disclaimer, please visit our website. Thank you, and we will see you Monday at the same hour. Enjoy your weekends.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.